Sammy, thanks so much for taking the time to speak with me. It is an absolute pleasure. How's everybody doing in Goatwhore at the moment?
Everybody's doing good, man. Just, bracing for impact coming this Friday.
Where's your head at then, as we do reach the final few days before the release of the new album? Just desperate to get it out?
Yeah, well, I mean, it's been so long since this record's been finished. I mean, this record was recorded in April of last year, so it's been a while that it's just been sitting there, so everybody's just really excited to finally get it out, because it just seemed like fucking forever that it was just like, well, we can't put it out until October of 2022, and it's like, fucking shit, man, it's gonna be the longest wait of our lives,
Yeah. Oh, do you find like, mentally, because you've had to wait so long to put it out when you finished it, so long ago, that mentally you're kind of moving on, but this period refreshes it for you?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, everybody is really excited about this. I think, everybody that hears this record is going to be pleasantly surprised at the changes we've made.
Well, with that then, has there been anything about the build the last year or so that's felt different for you? Anything fresh and new that you've got to experience that has just never really been the case with Goatwhore before?
Well, the thing about this record is that we had a lot of time to work on this record rather than, some of the past records. It was like you always put on a deadline to where you have to have this record done by this point in time and start recording it. And, it's always been like the case where, man, if I only had another month, I could have made this song or that song that much better. Where this record wasn't the case. It was like they're like, when you get it done, it's done. You're in no rush. The pandemic's in full effect. Nobody can do anything. You're in no rush to get on tour at any time soon. So that, I think, played a big part in how this record came out, to where we had a lot of time to think about a lot of the music that we were writing at the time,
Too much time, though? I mean, because when deadlines, while irritating on one side, can often also be useful to focus your mind. Did you ever get to the point where you thought we fiddled enough, we need to stop?
Oh, of course, and that's when other people's opinion on the songs come into play very good, because I was writing the entirety of the songs at the time, and I would send the demos out to the rest of the guys. And, sometimes they would be like, well, this song needs a little bit more work. Try this on this part, try that on this part. And a few times they were like, don't fuck with this song anymore. I know how you are. You're going to keep tinkering with it. And you're going to fuck it up. Leave it the way it is. It's fucking fantastic. So, it's a double-edged sword sometimes,
Well, take me back to the origins of Angels Hung from the Arches of Heaven. In particular, your vision for what the album might sound like. Was there a clear-cut vision that you had in mind?
Yes. And it was absolutely nailed on this record. I have to say, how I wanted the record to come out is what you're hearing.
It matched up perfectly.
Yes. It was a miracle of Satan.
I have to ask then, did the kind of events of 2019 pandemic onwards, all those elements, have any effect? Did it shape any part of it? Or were you able to kind of ignore that outside influence?
No, I was definitely, I'm sure everybody's been through it during the pandemic, to where the sense of, an uncertain future, a sense of like, how can I say it? Like almost like an impending doom kind of thing, like you don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. What's going to happen with this whole thing? A very uncertain and very negative future coming towards you. And I think that, that definitely has a lot of the vibe in the record. A sense of dread and uncertainty, almost. I hate to use this term, but almost a sense of doom, you know, kind of within the songs. It's a very uh, negative vibe on the record. You know what I'm saying? Compared to our last couple of records, you know, where it almost had the rock and roll party, drink whiskey, start cocaine vibe to it. This definitely does not have that vibe. This record is very dismal, you know.
No, I get it. It's been on my stereo all day today, getting to know the record nice and early before release. And it is, as you say, the word dark would be a simple way to sum it up, I think.
Yes, dark is a good way to describe it.
Considering the environment it was created in, or at least this, that may have influenced part of it, what was some of the more challenging aspects of creating an album this time around with the hangover of the pandemic and not being able to go out and play shows and tour and stuff like that?
Well, I utilize it as a positive thing, kind of, I took the time to sit down and really refine the songs because that's all I had to do. There were no shows, we obviously, so this was the focal point, was like, I have to sit down and make this record at the best I possibly can.
Do you think it would exist as it does if you didn't have all that extra time, or is that something that you kind of impossible to know?
It is impossible to know. I know the skeletons of the songs were taking form in like 2019 and early 2020 before the pandemic hit. So I was kind of going in that path with the vibe that already was there, because I was going through some very rough times in my life pre-pandemic. And the pandemic just was like the final nail in the coffin to make it even that much more darker.
You're able to listen to it now and look back and see it as a point in time, not just for yourself personally, but for Goatwhore overall.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I mean, it's really hard to describe. It's just I don't really tend to dwell on it that much. It's just we did what we did, and here it is. We don't really overthink ourselves too much.
Yeah, I think that's super important, particularly as we do this long build towards an album release, where you've got to drip feed content, you've got to be talking about it constantly and so on until we get to release date. Seeing the reactions of people to singles and what they've heard so far, is that something that's kind of eased your mind into how it's potentially going to be received? Because everybody's been saying it's been really, really good what they've heard.
Yeah, I mean, being that this record is such a different record for us in some aspects, I mean, don't get me wrong, it still sounds like Goatwhore, but we've kind of treaded off the path a little bit on certain aspects in the record.
Right.
And I wasn't sure how that was going to be accepted. And to be honest with you, I didn't care because I liked it. This is an album that I wrote for myself and no one else. And whether people like it or if they don't like it, I don't care. This was an achievement for me personally. So, and if people enjoy it, that's even better,
No, it makes complete sense. Particularly, we're looking at an album that's got 12 tracks, but I want to pick out one in particular that I think is perhaps one of the more intriguing tracks on the album. I'm talking about Finale, that is, And I Was Living from the Wound of Perdition, and the atmosphere that bleeds from that. That track in particular seems to stand out amongst the album as perhaps being one of the more unique efforts from Goatwhore. Where did the idea from this track come from?
Dark times. When I wrote that song, I was basically in a very bad place. Let's just put it that way. So when I wrote that song, I'm not going to go into the details of what happened or whatever, but I was just in a very bad place when I wrote that song. And to be honest with you, I wasn't actually intending on using that song for Goatwhore.
Right.
I have another project that's called Ritual Killer. and myself and the singer George Barlow were going to do a separate project off of Ritual Killer because Ritual Killer doesn't exist anymore. And that song was one of the first songs I wrote for that project. And the project never came to fruition. So I kept fucking with the song and trying to finish it. And finally, I got it to where I wanted it. And I presented it to the rest of the guys at Goatwhore. And I was like, you'd think this would work with what we do. And they were like, yes, we have to use this song. Even though it's so different and so unique to what we do, they were like, yes, we have to use this song. You cannot just keep this in the back for a different project. We're taking this song. So basically, that's what happened with that song, man.
It is incredible because it's so perfectly placed in the position of the album as well. The finale, the last thing you hear before the record ends, which really, you know, I think really helps the weight of the track.
Yeah, I mean, that when we started actually fleshing the song out with the rest of the guys in Goatwhore, you know, I just knew when we got it together as a band that this was definitely going to be the closing track on the album. And then we got in the studio and started experimenting with other things. Oh, excuse me. I experimented with other things in the studio, you know, just adding layers and layers to it. That's when I just was like, yes, this is definitely going to be the end of the album right here.
Were you surprised when you brought it to the other guys that they were so receptive to it?
Yes, because I wasn't entirely sure how they were going to react to it. They might have been like, no, that's not really what we're going to go for. And they were totally into it, which definitely surprised me. You know, I was like, okay, well, let's roll with it.
Do you think that's something that comes with time, that you as a group are more open-minded and more willing to sort of look at different ideas rather than sticking to the same thing over and over again?
Absolutely. You know, I mean, that's how you grow as a band, you know, instead of just sticking it to the same thing that works. You know, there's so many bands out there that just, you know, they've found a successful formula and they don't venture away from that with the future releases or future songs. You know, I'm not that kind of person to where, you know, this song, okay, like let's take that song for example. You know, that song came out miraculously amazing, you know, and you know, but I highly doubt we will try to replicate that song for future songs. You know what I'm saying? Just like, you know, I won't name any other bands, but there's so many bands out there that have found something to where it hit a pinnacle for them, and they kind of just stick to that and try to replicate the impact of that song. We're never going to do that, you know.
You still feel like you're moving forward. You still feel like you're growing.
Absolutely, always, you know.
What kind of things these days are influencing you as a musician? Do you keep your finger on the pulse? Are you paying a lot of attention to sort of the modern metal bands that are coming about across the world?
Not really. To be honest with you, I don't really listen to a lot of modern music at all. You know, I stick to what I grew up on, basically, you know, the whole Bathory, Venom, Celtic Frost. But, you know, don't get me wrong, there are some new bands that come out that really surprise me that I get attached to, you know, like Cults des Ghouls. You know, I recently heard them the last couple of years. I heard the album Hymnbane, and I was immediately just swallowed by that record. I was like, this is some of the most evil shit I've ever heard in my life. You know, and you know, there's always it has to be something very special within a modern band to catch me and make me become really engulfed in it, you know.
Yeah, it's a bit of a swamp out there, particularly with the way music's released these days. Trying to find the gold out of the pile of crap effectively can be hard work. Do you guys Goatwhore, do you think you're quite switched on with the modern requirements of being in a band? So, you know, social media, streaming, aspects like that. Is it something you are good at? It's something you enjoy?
It's a necessary evil. You know what I'm saying? It's like either you follow with it or you get left in the dust, you know. And that's just the way it is nowadays. I mean, I can remember back in the day when I was a young buck enjoying my metal. I would look at it. I would open up a magazine, and there would be a small ad of some band that had a crazy cover and said pure satanic evil, and I'd be like, all right, that's what I got to check out. Or go to the record store and pull out a vinyl or a cassette and look at the cover and be like, I have no idea what this sounds like, but it looks cool as hell, so I'm going to buy this. Those days are over completely, unfortunately. But you have to roll with the changes, or you're going to get left behind, basically.
Yeah, you put it brilliantly. A necessary evil. It is what it is. Play the game as much as you humanly can.
Yeah, that's just the way times are nowadays.
Well, I mean, you guys, you've been doing this, you've survived so much. You've seen so many changes in industry as well, for over the years. Yet here you stand in 2022, about to release one of, I think, your best records to date. For you, how do you think Goatwhore has managed to have such longevity?
I think that has a couple of factors in there. The reason that we all get along very well as a band, that helps a lot. What also helps a lot is that we love touring, and that's another big factor of why we're still here, is that that's what we do. There's a lot of bands out there that they have these delusions of grandeur and they go on tour and you're playing some shithole in the middle of nowhere to 5 people. It gets really discouraging, but you have to power through that if you really believe in what you do. And and the biggest thing I think is that we really enjoy what we do. We're fans of playing music and creating metal, and that's, I think, the most powerful reason that we're still doing this after 25 years, is that we still love what we do.
Yeah, speaking to you here, your enthusiasm is coming through the screen. It's incredible to talk to you, and particularly when you bring up touring, because my mind immediately goes, oh my goodness, how did you stay sane when you basically couldn't for 2 years?
I sat down and wrote this record. That's the only explanation I could say. That's the only thing that kept me from doing something very bad.
Incredible. I love that it's out in a few days as well, so people don't have too much longer to wait. Last one then, really, is the plan now. Get this record out and just tour this record. Get these songs heard in the live environment, because some of them are going to sound immense, I think.
Yes, that is the plan. We've been waiting to do this for a very long time, so everyone's very excited to play the new songs for all the maniacs.
Can't wait. Can't wait till you come to the UK as well.
Right on, man.
Sammy, there we go. Thank you so much for taking the time to do this. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me, man. I really appreciate you.
Thank you very much for watching. If you liked what you saw, please help us out by giving us a thumbs up and hitting that subscribe button. If you really liked what you saw, consider donating to keep the website and channel running by buying us a coffee via our coffee page or picking up some merch from our Big Cartel store. You can check us out on gbhbl.com, as well as via our social media, Facebook, Instagram and Twitter, as well as listen to our interviews via SoundCloud, Apple Music and Spotify. Just search for GBHBL. Games, horror and heavy metal. What else is life for?